And just like that, we are live on the Facebook. How's everybody doing? You're tuned in. You ready for the number? 82. We are recording our 82nd episode of the Hidden Entrepreneur Show. Thank you for joining us. You see on the screen, it's the man, Tim Holloway. How's it going, Tim?
It's going really, really good. Thank you so much.
I'm so glad to hear that. I'm just going to click a few buttons here and make sure we could. How's everybody doing? You're tuned in. Give me 1 second. Here we go. Cool. So you have a very beautiful backdrop there. I see a lake. I see trees. I see forest. I see greenery. What's going on?
Yes, we are in North Idaho. It's called Sandpoint. It's a small town, about 9,000 people, and we are close to Canada. And it's just beauty. You can see behind me, the snow is starting to melt. Just a month ago, this pond was all ice, and so it was just winter wonderland here.
You live in a town with 9,000 people?
I actually live about an hour away from here, so it's a lot larger than that. I prefer a little bit more of the city life.
I say. But that has its purpose too. What'd you say, that you're at a place where you hold retreats and whatnot? I love that idea.
Yes. Yeah. We hold retreats for businessmen to get away and just get refocused and reconnected to their why.
Oh my goodness. I love that. I can't wait to hear all about that. For everybody tuning in, as you see in the description here, we're going to talk about putting any excuse you have aside, taking full responsibility for yourself, right? And we all come from different pasts, different circumstances, different history, but none of that, right, Tim? None of that should dictate what you're doing today and what you are capable of today. Is that the theme?
Absolutely. This is just my heart and passion to drop every excuse, because
we're going to hear
from experience. I've had everyone in the book.
And we were bantering a little bit before we went on the air, and I've read you did not come from an easy an easy circumstance of a past over and over again. And looks like you've found your way through it, and we're going to find out how.
Awesome. That sounds great.
Cool. Well, thank you for being here and going down this path. And thank you everybody for joining us live. If you have any thoughts, comments, questions along the way, put them into that chat, because I do read in real time as we are recording the episode. And if you are here live, let me know you are here. Let me know you are live. But if you're watching the recorded replay, let me know that too. Let me know you're watching the replay. I like to see the difference on who's here as it's happening versus coming for the replay. All right. I am ready to hit record and get this episode going. Are you, Tim?
I am ready.
Well, cool. Let's do this. And thanks again for everybody joining us live here. Really cool to see you. Here we go. Hey there, guys. Thanks for joining us. You're tuned right into the Hidden Entrepreneur Show. I am your host, Josh Carey. How often do you use your past history and circumstance as an excuse for not achieving all that you want in life? You know what I'm talking about, and I get it. Personally, it took me 4 decades of telling myself the same phony story over and over, packaged as truth, before I said enough is enough of that. Our guest today also gets it. He was a victim of abuse, ward of the court, a runaway, and a drug addict by 14 years old. He turned his life around and spent a decade helping at-risk youth from Los Angeles. He has now decided to focus his attention on helping adults move beyond the limiting beliefs from their past. Can't wait to hear all about that. And he is here to help all of us transform our identity into what we know we are capable of. Help me welcome Tim Holloway. How's it going, Tim?
It's going great. I just wanted to thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Likewise, Tim, I really appreciate who you are and what you're doing. So you have something called the Impact Challenge. I read it. I love it. I get it. Tell us what it is.
Okay, so I have broken down systematically what we all kind of want and need in life, and it's based, of course, on Maslow's hierarchy of human needs. But and then the impact is kind of the idea of what I wanted to create in this world. And so I basically created the acronym of impact, but it is your inner being, it is your money, it is your physical body, it is your authority, it is your connection and your time. And so impact. And what I really discovered, right?
Yeah.
What I really discovered is when I focus on those areas of my life and begin to build them up, I feel fulfilled, and I feel, some sort of peace and happiness that I didn't have before. So,
like I said, I read it. I love it. One of the things you talk about and you say is that you were eating crap all day long and wondering why you were not feeling well. I could totally relate to that. I get it. For so long, I'm eating my version of crap and then going back home and saying, why do I feel like crap? Why don't I feel good? Why is it? Is that how it was for you? What was your version of crap?
That was in all areas of my life.
Go for it. I'm with you.
Eating crap as far as my inner being, right?
Yeah.
Not feeding on any TED Talks, positivity, awesome podcasts, just eating garbage. And for me, that was clicking on some program when I got home at night on Netflix, some scary movie. I'd fall asleep to just crap every single night. For my body, it was, a little too much wine, too many monsters, too big of dinner, whatever it was, just junk. And I'm wondering why, I'm pissing BBs, So true. Relationship was just the same thing, just feeding on pornography and just going down the negative path of longing for intimacy, but settling for all these cheap substitutes. So every area feeding on crap.
We're not alone. I've spent decades exactly where you're talking about, and we wonder why it's not working, and we think we are alone, right? Like, hey, why isn't anything working out for me? And what does it take to sort of begin to shift an acknowledgement of, okay, here are the things that I'm doing that are not really serving?
That's absolutely right. I totally believe in this principle of cause and effect, and no matter what, we just can't really escape from that reality. And that is, my thoughts produce certain behaviors, produce certain actions that give me certain outcomes. So I'm sitting here complaining about all my outcomes, right? Like, oh, this sucks. My body sucks. My relationship sucks. Everything sucks. Not correlating all the decisions that brought me to the sucky life.
And you said one incredible word there, complaining.
Complaining.
We think all these things, we feel, we do, we take action, and then we complain about what's happening, not seeing the correlation, cause and effect.
Wow. Yeah, and complaining, then we blame. Like, this is my wife's fault. This is freaking McDonald's fault. This is, whoever's fault.
Right.
My parents'
my
fault. Whatever.
Job sucks. If I had a different job, if I had more money, if I had a different spouse, if they didn't do this, no, none of that is going to work.
Exactly. That's the trap of the cycle, and it just goes around and around, just repeating.
Wow. So what did you find yourself, what are you doing today, for example, that you weren't doing in your unhealthier days?
The number one thing is, so I break down those 6 key areas of my life.
What are they again? Impact. What are they?
Impact. That is your inner being, your money, that can correlate to, entrepreneurship and business and stuff like that. Your physical body, your authority, your connection, and your time. So what I do is I pick 2 things that I want in each area of my life, and I do those 2 things every day.
Example, please.
So okay. So inner being.
Yeah.
I meditate
Me too.
and I listen to something inspirational.
Meditation,
Two
by the
things.
way, is a game changer. Tell me, I mean, you must agree, right?
Yeah. So two things.
Mhm.
That's it. Radically change some sort of spirituality that I have. And I'm not religious, but there are some people that are totally opposed to any form of spirituality when it's just for me, meditation and inspiration. Those two things. So I accomplished those, within the first hour in the morning.
And then you
Listen to
check it off.
something,
Yeah.
check it off. Like this works for me because I find passion in all these things and I choose what my impact is. So it's not dictated to me. So, for example, if one day doesn't work for me, then I might replace it with something else, another item to do there. And so it's like this freeing experience that daily I communicate to myself, to my brain, to my life that I am creating my impact by doing these things.
That is just like I'm literally getting the chills right now because it's so amazing and so easy and simple sounding, but I guess the difficult trap is doing it. So
Yeah.
you do 12 of these things. You do 2I, 2M, 2P every
Yeah.
day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So money, very simplistic. I podcast practically every day. And so for me, that's just sharing my daily wisdom. And so it's reading something or learning something new. For example, I read all the time on Instagram, podcasting, Facebook, marketing. For me, it's 5-10 minutes learning something new. Like I think the last couple days I've learned different posts on Instagram and how to block up this post and look really neat. It's just
Yeah.
little things about educating myself to better my business. And then for me, it's podcasting.
Wow.
It's my way of giving back to the world.
You know what I love about that is that it puts your day in focus. For me, I had all these, decades of unhealthy habits from the minute I woke up and how I woke up to the minute I went to sleep and how I went to sleep. Everything in between just created this series of events that created this picture of a day that was not productive and destructive until
Right.
you start realizing. So what I then, for all the reasons of my story, I then simply replaced one by one of those things with better serving habits. And no matter how you do it, it's the same thing you're saying. You just
You
have to, yeah.
you are hitting the nail on the head, and people are so frustrated. And I believe the reason is because we have all these negative habits that we've picked up along the way, and we're stuck in these cycles and we're just doing them, and they are our focus. We're like, man, if I could just stop, blah blah blah.
Yes.
What you're talking about, what I'm talking about is don't even worry about stopping anything per se unless you're going to die tomorrow. Okay, start a couple new things. You start a couple things on your daily habits, and I swear good eats up evil all the time, or bad,
Yes.
or detrimental. So begin to put into practice something good, and then the good just swallows it up.
That's right. It's not stopping a bad habit. You literally need to find something to replace it
Replace it.
with. And that's exactly what you're saying is that don't worry about stopping it. Find something else that you're going to do that is going to take the place of. Great example, living, breathing proof here. One of my worst habits, and they were all worse, right? I'm sure they were all equally as terrible if I were to chart them out, was I used to bite my nails. I used to bite them for years, and it was bloody and unattractive, which is sort of helping me. If I thought or analyzed why, it's because it was helping me keep the shame and embarrassment physically, and oh look how So through all this, and again, that was one of my worst physical habits. I never, in the course of my change and adjustments, I never had to figure out how to stop biting my nails in the right time. I just never felt like biting my nails again. So that was a great side effect of other habits that were becoming positive in my life. So that's a great example of you don't always have to stop something. Things will naturally fall by the wayside when you
They
get,
will.
yeah. Now
They
I love my
will.
nails and I haven't bitten my nails. I have no desire to bite my nails. Who knew?
This is the way that I quit smoking. I
Go
know some
ahead.
people just like cold turkey and this, that, and the other thing. Mine was a reduction and a replacement. It started out with gum and then sunflower seeds and then creating different habits and connection with people. We don't understand this. You get connected with certain people where smoking is just not acceptable in certain environments. And so you got now these activities, you got these environments, you got your newfound feeling, and they just fall off. They just fall off.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I also love that you said people get so frustrated and overwhelmed when they're trying to work on this. I always think that if you find yourself in a frustrated or overwhelmed position, it's likely because you believe you have no choice in some matter. And once you can understand that there is full choice in every situation, it might seem dire or unlikely, but when you can just wrap your head around the fact that I do have a choice, and maybe you don't have to tackle the big choices right away, like a new career or leaving a relationship. But if you can just understand that everything you do is your distinct choice, that should open up the idea that you have control and you should then start feeling a little less frustrated and overwhelmed. That's just been my experience.
Yeah. Well, a lot of smart minds think the same. I think of Viktor Frankl because that was the book that kind of set me on the course to responsibility and choosing your attitude.
Yeah.
And the power of his logotherapy that he created. But in a simplistic form, it's just exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And looking at your life and go, oh my God, I made 1,000 choices today. And I only had one or two things fall upon me that was beyond, that wasn't my choice. And that kind of happened to me in a sense. And you look at that and you look at the ratio and it's like, oh my God, all these things that I'm choosing to do. And I have these couple little things that kind of come upon me. Where should my energy be spent? On the things I can't control or all these choices that I control on a daily that get me the results that I'm getting. Yeah. So powerful thought.
I'm looking at you. I'm listening to you. I know where you are today, but also I know where you could have been today. Am I right? And we'll get into your upbringing to again point out that there's no excuse. There's no reason. Whatever it is, you have no excuse. You have full control and choice to achieve and do, and none of that is used as an excuse. It just isn't. If you are, you don't need to be. Where could your life, do you ever think like, oh my God, I'm sure you do, it's probably a rhetorical question.
Yeah.
How grateful and appreciative you are for being powerful enough to take the actions you took. Where could your life have been right now?
It was bad. I think at 13 is when I had a suicide attempt, swallowing a bottle of sleeping pills.
Oh my!
And what brought me to this point is I can go a little brief description of the history of my life.
Well, let me ask you this. Tell us. Oh, I'm sorry. Finish that thought. And then, yeah. Okay.
So I think at 13 through 16 that I didn't have the expectation to live much longer. So looking in and and all the trauma and everything, I don't think I would have lasted very long. I really don't.
Wow. So let's go back now. Bring us back even prior to that. Set the scene for us. What was life like growing up for Tim Holloway?
Okay. So before I was even born, this kind of gives a clue to what I'm born into.
Oh my.
Was my sister was murdered by one of my mom's boyfriends who threw her against the wall. And during this whole scenario, he tied my brother up. So my brother's around 3 years old and my sister is, she's under one. She's between newborn and 12 months old.
Oh, wow.
And so she's murdered and my brother's taken away. And then my mom doesn't change her patterns. And I know she had some abuse and stuff, but she just kept, in this crutch and excuse lifestyle. But she found men that were just the same, just as abusive
Wow.
as he was. My father, he was huge man, huge, gangster, in prison all the time, San Quentin, Folsom, all these big prisons, and was connected with the Hells Angels and the Aryan Brotherhood and stuff like that. Needless to say, when I was born, he was married another woman. So my birth was a conjugal visit, just to let people know. I was a product of a conjugal visit, pretty much not a very long relationship. So
well, let me clear something up here for a moment.
uh-huh.
When you were born, obviously you weren't told all this immediately. So when were you told all of this information, as a young adult, or how old were you? Do you remember?
I was told a lot of information growing up, and then the court cases that came later, and then me sharing my experience with the attorneys and the judge, and my brother sharing their experience, and then my grandmother testifying, and just kind of just getting all these stories and all these knowledge. By 10 years old, I pretty much knew everything that was going on.
How does a 10-year-old process this? How do you
I
how do you
didn't.
cope with it? How do you cope with it?
Yeah. I had a lot of panic attacks, but I didn't know what they were.
Okay.
All I knew is that, I'm curled up in a ball on the bathroom floor, and I'm hyperventilating and doing these things. I would wake up in multiple different locations, and that means a couple blocks down the street. Like, so the sleepwalking is kind of like night terrors, where you go into panic attacks and take off to different locations because you're just you're fearful and you're scared and you're running. That was my childhood experience, and this is after being taken away from the trauma. So we were taken away. I was 10 years old when I was taken away from my mother and my stepfather.
And who were you living with?
My grandmother.
Was there any sort of, in your mind, bright outlook where you were like, you know what, when I graduate, I'm gonna shed all this and I'm gonna be the person I know I could be? Anything like that?
There didn't come any bright side until maybe 16 years old. I think before that was pretty much just, put me out of my misery, sort of a death wish sort of thing. Just like, please, like, end this somehow. That was pretty much where I was.
So what happened with this bright side? Bring us to that point, 16, 17.
Okay.
What now helped? And you're like, oh, thank goodness.
Right. So, so leading up to this, and I'll just share really briefly. So I was given custody of my grandmother, and then I woke up and found her dead. And this was 13 years old. And so not too long after, I decided to run away. And I moved in with the meth dealer up the street, and we took off and moved cities. So I'm living with a 30-something-year-old at 14 years old. But so about 16 years old, I come in contact with a man. And what I mean by a man is a man. Like, so because I never knew what a man was, right? Like, as far as I knew, men beat their wives. As far as I knew that men, were paranoid, schizophrenic, I just never had a positive role model of a man. And so I came in contact with a mentor relationship to a man. He took the Jack in the Box, and he's sitting there talking to me. He was an ex-cop, and he had a spiritual life, and he seen that I was drowning, like I was pretty much dead in the water. And so that's what changed for me. So he did take me into his home at 16 years old, and I became a part of the family. And so what I seen was like how it's supposed to happen. As far as parenting, treating your wife,
Wow.
having nice things. I never seen a man have nice things. He had a house on a hill and cars that worked, and I was just blown away about the scenario. So the changing point in my life happened is when I finally met a man, and then of course who was willing to invest and mentor me.
Wow. So how did that play out the next year, 2 years, 3 years, however long it lasted?
Oh man, me getting going back and getting my GED, because as you know, I didn't even make it to high school.
Oh, you
Ran
didn't
away,
even
took
make, wow.
off.
Wow.
I didn't even make it to high school. You where all the trauma was, right about 14. It just everything just messed up. So I went back and got my GED, which is night school, right? And then I ended up getting a job as a little maintenance guy at Taco Bell, just cleaning up. And then, of course, became the assistant manager not too long. And so during this, from 16 to 20, was out building my life, getting it on track, getting a job, finding a place, just, starting out fresh and right.
Wow. And then what happened in your early 20s? You're starting to get your head straight?
Yeah, so I got my head straight, man, and good job. I think I bought two houses at the time I was 24. I think I bought my first house 22, upgraded at 24. I mean, awesome job, things were well, and then my dad overdosed on heroin, and it just set me into this just kind of downward spiral for quite a while, for quite a while.
Hmm. Well, when you bought your first house, 22, 24, was there a sense of pride and accomplishment? There had to have been, right? From where you came, really
Oh
not so
yes,
long, not so long prior. You probably saw,
right.
yeah.
Yeah, you know what? There was a lot of pride and accomplishment. I felt like that I rose above, my heritage and the family system and all that stuff. And I knew that something greater was going to begin to happen. For example, I think there was a year there at 24, right before my dad died. I made a lot of money that year. And there was a sense of, I don't want to say pride in an inordinate sense where you're like, look at me, but there was like, gosh, like I probably made more this year than my dad ever made in his whole life legally.
Doing what?
Construction. I was in
Wow.
construction management, and we built a lot of homes, and each home had a bonus attached to it. And then it was, yeah, and then there's fixing up my first house and selling that for a huge profit, as you can imagine. And that in those years you can actually make 100,000, 120,000, in a couple of years.
Wow. So good for you. So now in your early 20s, you get the news of your father. That sort of brings you back down a little bit. How and when did we come out the other side of that?
So that was a long haul because I was in the ministry at the time. And so going through, a sense of depression, not understanding, questioning, all these different things that took place, I was really no longer suitable to really help anybody. And so that came with, losing, a passion and stuff. So I would probably say, yeah, it took a while. It took probably my divorce in my early 30s to finally get to the other side of that.
And at that point, you still have some. I mean, you certainly feel like you're above and out of your upbringing, right? But you still had
Absolutely.
some bad habits and things to work through.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what the listeners can get from that is that life is kind of like a journey, and that I've defeated so many giants, right? Defeated all these things, and then going in and going along, there's always other things that are going to come against you, and guess what? I've defeated those now too. Life's a process, and we think this magic wand, right? It's like poof, this fairy's going to make everything better, and it's like,
No.
yeah,
Yeah.
I freaking was killing it, right? And then, a couple of bad things happened, and alcoholism kind of resurfaced, and then I had to beat those too.
Wow. So now here you are today. So now let's talk about the work that you had to do, because in your 30s and beyond, you were still fighting those demons and that the past history and circumstances. What kinds of things did you put in place?
So the first thing was extreme responsibility, like saved my life. And that is extreme responsibility is almost everything is my fault. And this is kind of hard for people of abuse and trauma, right? Because you look back, it's like, no, it's not my fault. Like, it's what they did to me.
Yeah.
That's the reason. But extreme responsibility takes the stances of, I understand the pain that I went through and the trauma that I experienced, but am I going to continually allow these people to hurt me over and over again? Am I going to stay in this trauma and in this pain, or am I going to choose to take responsibility for my life? So number one, ultimate extreme responsibility. And this is hard for people to swallow. Almost everything is your fault.
I get it. I've heard it put like that before, and it's the truth that is for some reason it could be a little controversial, but there's so much power in it. Listen to what it is. There's so much power in that because it gives you the power. It gives you the power.
So I've worked with women who have been victimized and raped. When they grab a hold of this concept, because at first it's like, I hate you. I'm not going to even listen to you right now. What are you talking about? The pain that and we got to understand this is that no, the situation, something did happen to you, but we are choosing every single day to relive and to rehearse these thoughts and continue the story. We believe what that story told us. We're worthless. We're weak. We're good for nothing, right? Everything that event communicated to us, we just believe hook, line, and sinker, and it's destroying us, and we can make a different choice. And so that's the power.
Yeah, Tim, that's exactly, that was my story that I fed myself, that I referenced in the introduction. I gave myself that story as truth, now able to know it was false. And really, I knew it was phony in real time because behind closed doors, I would feel so angry and aggravated and frustrated because I knew I was feeding myself a false story, but didn't feel strong enough to show up in the world living the true version. So I would, hate myself and kick and scream for having to put on this phony persona, this weak persona that I perpetuated. And then I attracted all the people and circumstances in my life that helped me perpetuate that story.
Yeah, that is so true.
Yeah.
I think it's the facing reality. I talk about it in my book, The Impact Challenge, but honesty is the first key to anything. It's just looking at it and going, this is where I'm at. Like, these are the decisions that I'm making. These are all the areas that I'm dissatisfied with. And these are the choices that brought me that dissatisfaction. And just being able to face the truth and reality, it's where it starts.
Yeah. And I know some of this might be a hard pill to swallow, like we're talking about. But the truth is, if and when you can, it really becomes powerful in your favor, looking at any less than desirable circumstance and taking responsibility, like you're saying, taking an honest look of what maybe you contributed consciously or subconsciously to the scenario to have this situation be able to even occur. And it was a very big pill for me to swallow, that I found myself in a lot of very less than ideal, hurtful in business, in personal, in relationships, in social, in family, in all these things, until, like you said, I had to lay my cards out on the table. take an honest look and say, okay, what am I responsible for here? I'm not just the victim, because I could continue to say, and believe me, I've done it for years, that, oh no, I'm the victim and this is just happening to me. And why is this happening to me? And keep myself in that victim mentality. You can, but you're going to get the same result, and you're going to keep yourself in that victim role. If you have any desire to get out, you need to say, okay, no. I'm not a victim. Let me see what I've been doing to perpetuate this, something, anything, because when you can find that, you can remove. So if you really want to remove yourself from these less than desirable situations, it's time to say, okay, what am I doing? Deliberately, not deliberately, consciously, not consciously, to allow this situation, to perpetuate the situation, to find myself in this situation. You have to, by all sense of definition, be doing something, or else you wouldn't be in that scenario.
That is so true. There's a reality of we've either caused this or allowed this to happen. Now, this ain't always the case, because we can get on here and debate about there's certain things that happen, and I don't really want to go to the 1%, but allowing the pain to continue when you can stop the pain. This is what we're talking about here. Now, you didn't cause the pain. Right. You didn't allow that person to violate you or whatever took place, as far as if we're talking about trauma. Yeah. But again, it's the allowing of the pain when we can make a different choice and get out. Wow.
You had mentioned, yeah, go ahead. No,
I was thinking the crazy thing about this victim role, and I played it very good. There was something about my teenage years. Oh, poor Timmy, right? The poor abused child. I mean, I had the teachers bringing me food. I had, all these scenarios of where my victim role benefited me very much. And it was always, oh, poor Timmy. And when I went to grandmother's, she made sure to spoil me to death, give me the best life she could, right? And so there's something about the victim role that is, yeah, I was a victim, right? And I got a good excuse for where I am right now, doing drugs, just, living on the streets, just doing stupid stuff. I got a good reason. And that's here's the reality. We all got a good reason.
Yeah.
I mean, they're pretty valid. Like, yeah, okay, but what are you going to do now? Okay. So it's dropping the excuses, dropping the reasons, because we all got semi-valid ones.
So wow, the way you have now come to this part of your life, what were some of the things I know you were helping at-risk youth, and then you mentioned something about women. How and when did this occur in your life?
So for 7 years, I worked for a treatment center for boys, and
that's great.
We helped from Watts, that different locations over there that had to be taken out of their home due to some sort of crime they committed, within the neighborhood. And so it helped me out a lot, even though going through those years, I was dealing with my own stuff and own experiences. Reaching out and looking at me, basically. I'm looking at me in a younger sense, and reaching out and helping people bring kids out of that condition at that point was, I found purpose and passion for it, and it caused me to not sink down so low in my life, to be able to have a passion and a purpose and something to do. So it was highly, highly beneficial for me. Highly beneficial.
Whew. How do you spend your time today? I know you're at a one of your retreat houses there.
You're probably you're probably gonna the listeners are probably gonna be like, oh my goodness. But a daily routine for me looks like waking up, listening to inspirational content. It looks like meditating. As far as my physical body and the impact, I drink a green smoothie in the morning, and I eat my probiotics to get my digestive system good.
That's awesome.
And then I start my day, which includes running a marketing business from home. And so I put about 4 hours into that every day. So
Hmm.
that's pretty much, my existence. So
Wow.
I look at my connection with my wife, and that's part of my impact also. So I make sure to do something that connects with her that day, whether it's spending time talking or just rubbing her shoulders. Just picking something that's gonna make a deposit into my wife. And so yeah, amazing if we can go there. Daily deposits on your significant other. You think your marriage is falling apart? Just begin to make deposits and watch that account just overflow. Just amazing.
Wow. What an incredible story in life. How do you view the word fail?
Fail. I fail a lot. So I think the failure isn't giving up. Honestly, I wouldn't be where I was today if I gave up, because I've had a hard road to get here. Um, even just recently with business partners and different things that just don't happen the way you see it. Um, we look at people's lives that they're living the life, right? They make significant amount of money and they're working from home and like, oh, I wish I had that.
Hmm.
It was a tough road.
Wow.
For example, it was going all in. So I was working at that treatment center right in Southern California and decided to move to Idaho and kind of pursue this entrepreneurship. There's no going back. It's like it's the whole idea of burning the ships. And here's the fact: most people won't burn the ships. They're not willing to go all in, and so they look at people and it's like, oh man, they're like so successful. I wish I had amazing podcasts and income and all that stuff. And it's like, you got to do the work. You got to burn them ships. You got to go all in.
So much truth in all that, especially you have to do the work. There are no shortcuts. You just have to get it done, find something you enjoy doing and put in the work, envision the plan, execute on it, and see the results. It's really like that. So you've certainly,
absolutely.
Boy, have you come a long way, to put it mildly. Thank goodness, right? If you had to drill it down to one thing that just allowed you, because by all versions, all definition, you really shouldn't be where you are today, right? I mean, the cards were stacked against you. What would you say kept you alive, quite literally?
So you're absolutely right. I have 5 brothers and 5 sisters, and they are on welfare. I have one in prison. I have, everybody is not doing very well who experienced the same situation. So when you say that, I get goosebumps because I know that, as far as my upbringing and everything that I don't belong here. But
Wow.
in a sense, people love that story though, right? I love that story. I love the bosses and the people that have went from nothing and got something. They're powerful people. And so that just like encourages me that, you know what, I may not deserve this in the sense of, the right upbringing, the right environment, the right education, the right whatever you call it. Like if somebody told me to go back to college right now, I'd kind of laugh at them and like, entrepreneurship is the way to go. Don't do that. You know what I mean? Because of, where I'm from now and the knowledge that I have. So number one thing, responsibility, just like we talked about. I have the ability to choose my response. And therefore I can go, yeah, but my parents. Yeah, but my environment. Yeah, but this. Yeah, but my education. Yeah, but everything, right? It's taking responsibility and choosing your response.
Amazing.
That is the number one thing. Number one thing.
Love it. If you were able to go back to a younger version of yourself, what conversation would you have with that person?
I think my would be more the empathy with the pain and saying I understand what you're going through, but that there is hope. It's like that old saying, hold on pain, and there's hope. And that 13-year-old me who swallowed that bottle of pills and just thought it was all over, I would say hold on, just wait. like, I know you're enduring, you're going through pain right now, but um, there is light at the end of the tunnel.
You believe that everything happens for a reason?
I do. I absolutely do. There's so many things with me being connected with my wife, that the scenarios that happen in her moving state, and just I can't explain it. And I've told her before, it's like, no, I don't believe in destiny, right? She caused me to believe in destiny, because it's like, how did all these scenarios, you living in Texas, me getting a divorce, getting my head together, creating a better me, and us meeting up in this correct fashion, and then us creating this powerful life that we're creating together. It's hard not to believe in destiny.
Hmm.
It's so hard.
What do you believe happens when it's all over, when our time here on Earth comes to an end?
Ooh, that's a tricky question. I don't believe that we have an eternal soul per se, but I do believe that there is some sort of afterlife for somebody who may be not extremely wicked. And when I say wicked, you're a serial killer, you're going around, your intention is to hurt, all these people. And so for me, I do believe in some sort of existence after this. I just don't know what that entails. I really don't.
Fair. Yeah. What does the future hold for you?
Well, we want to create our marketing business so it's self-sufficient, and that means it doesn't require me to be there. In a sense, so we want it to bring in a certain amount of income and then be running by itself. And so therefore I can go 100% to the Impact Challenge and just really dive in deep to creating programs and systems to begin to liberate people.
Wow. I will leave you with this final question. Tim Holloway, how would you like to be remembered?
Ooh, I think about this often. I even wrote my obituary. I don't quite remember it. I don't have it with me, but it was along the lines that he was a great man, and he created impact in multiple people's lives. And here's the main thing that I want. I don't want anything in me, because I'm a creator, to go uncreated. And so I'm going to say, and this is why in my daily podcast, I'm going to say everything that's on my mind. Like, I am not going to go to the grave with one thought or one idea still in me. I'm just not going to do it. And the same thing with books and creating programs and these ideas and everything. The only thing that would stop that is if for some freak accident, I was taken before I can complete these things. But if I'm giving the time, you can guarantee that there ain't nothing left in them.
Wow, I love that. What in the world prompted you to write your obituary?
For me, impact was legacy, and I began to think about legacy and what I wanted to leave behind, and just really getting a vision of that. And I actually meditated on it and seen my wife actually saying these words. That he was a great man, and so it was like a real powerful experience for me. So,
wow, did you share that with your wife?
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Whew, so much here. Thank you. My goodness. Seriously, Tim, thank you for showing up, for opening up, and for sharing all of you with us today. Incredible to meet you, man.
Man, thank you. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And I appreciate everybody joining us, tuning in, whether you're here on the live broadcast or you're tuning in to the official podcast production on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Google Play, or Spotify, wherever you consume your podcasts. If you have something to say, let us know with a rate and review. Let us know your thoughts, what you think of the show, so we can keep it going and do good things. We're going to continue to do another episode not too far behind. Again, I want to thank you for your time. Until we meet again, go get 'em.
Peace.